honor and the privilege to introduce to you today, to the world, Chris K. Jones. He's an executive leadership coach, a trusted advisor specializing in crisis management and high-stakes decision making. Drawing on a distinguished career as a retired U.S. Air Force leader, yes, he brings real-world experience leading under pressure, guiding individuals and organizations through complex, rapidly evolving challenges. As an author and a keynote speaker, Chris shares practical strategies for resilient leadership, clarity in uncertainty, and decisive actions when it matters most. His work empowers leaders to elevate their performance, strengthen their teams, and navigate through critical moments with confidence and precision. I have no other time at this moment to present to you none other than Chris K. Jones. Welcome to Man Up Monday, Chris. I am so excited. I could not wait to get you here to the show. And I know we have been playing back and forth and dates and changing, but you are here and I am excited. And I can't wait to introduce you to the world here. First of all, I want to start off by sharing how we met.
Okay.
So, as a lot of you already know, I am a retired educator, and this one particular day I just happened to be walking through Caraway Village parking lot, and I saw Chris with this big old $1 million smile across his face, and I said, "Good morning." He goes, "Good morning, how are you?" And we exchanged dialogue, and I said, "You know what? You look like one of my former students. Is your name Chris Jones?" And he said, "Yes." And I was like, "Oh my gosh," I got really excited about this.
Yeah.
And I said, "I'm Miss Powell from Brogdon Middle School," and he had this strange look, truly the strange look. I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't the right Chris Jones, but I just have to say that it wasn't the correct Chris Jones, but he was put in my path for a reason and a season, and definitely this season. So I am so grateful that our paths did cross. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for everything that we're getting ready to hear about you and what you do in this community. First of all, I want to start off by asking you, you've led in truly high-stakes environments. Can you share a moment where everything was on the line and what that experience taught you about leadership under pressure?
You know, every time people ask me this question, it's an honor because it allows me to reflect. And I think one of the biggest moments that I had to lead, it actually gets me emotional just because when I really think about it, I was a part of that Afghan evacuation, the largest airlift in history. I was part of planning, integrating, and then designing that. And in that time frame, there was so many yeses, there were so many different moving parts. However, to remain calm, to understand my teams, to integrate new teams and new services, it taught me a lot about what's necessary to happen in those high stakes. Because if I were to paint the picture, my captain knocked on my door, and he told me, he said, "Sergeant Jones, I've only been on the ground for about 72 hours. And he said, I don't even know where the airfield is." And I said, with irritation, "What's happening?" He said, "Well, there's a plane inbound from Afghanistan to Qatar, which is where I was stationed, and it's been hijacked."
Oh.
And from that moment, it was more of a, okay, I'm going to close my door, I'm going to throw my uniform back on, and we're going to go handle business. But what happened over the course of the next 22 days was instant shifts, instant styles of leadership that I had to understand, integrate into my own brain, my own patterns, and know what was right and what was wrong. So it wasn't always a yes. A lot of times it was a no, we're not going to do that. And that actually defined and helped me create boundaries because some leaders see it differently. Mm-hmm. Their vision is completely different than the organization needs or the system needs. So as hard as it may have been sometimes, that no actually saved a lot of lives.
Wow. Whew. That gives me chills just thinking about that. In that moment, what was going on behind the scenes in your mind? And what I mean by that is, okay, this is what's going to happen. What about, how do I prepare in the event that things don't go the way that we planned? Do I call home? what's going through your mental state at that point?
So we're sitting at a poker table right now. And what you learn in that game is you have to play the cards that you're dealt. And I think that framework of understanding, attempting to lead 800 people, all the services coming together, having the Rangers come in, the SEALs to come in, all of these teams are getting direction from one focal point. So whether we're setting up security, whether we are trying to keep the population of Afghans safe, we had to adjust culturally on the drop of a dime. So it was seeing and watching planes circling in the air because we didn't have enough runway on the airfield, while understanding, hey, I've got teams in Afghanistan that I need to check on. I need to make sure that I know what I'm doing. And then on top of that, being able to push that information up through the leadership chain, which is going all the way back to DC. Because the updates that were needed clarity and understanding. And I think if you really look at that, that's the same thing that I needed every time I walked out that door.
Okay. For your younger colleagues that was there, how was that for them, and how did you keep them focused in on what was happening? Because you think about somebody who's 18, 19, coming right out of high school into a situation like this. This is not a video game. It's
not a video game, and you're right. And I did want to share a moment during that time. Most people may not remember, but there was an aircraft. The tail number was 1109. I will never forget this because as I was pulling out of my dorm the second day, so we got the first plane in, we unloaded that, but the second day was where the trauma started to happen. And I turned on my radio and the first thing I heard was, we need to search the airfield for body parts. And I'm like, okay, what's happening? So obviously I hop on the phone and I'm like, hey, what's happening? And what was told was there was Afghan personnel that just hopped on the wing tips and decided that they wanted to escape. That was the mindset that we had to adapt to in those moments. And when that plane finally landed, there was actually a body attached that was burned from the atmosphere, from the travel from Afghanistan to the location. And to sit there and watch those young airmen have to really understand, like, hey, what you're seeing is not the video game, this is real life. Some people adapted and some people also needed to take that break. So as soon as I see people, and I do this on a daily basis now, if I can tell someone's off, I immediately, instantly try to intervene because what's happening. That way I understand, not just from a younger generation, but to an older generation, I can pinpoint and spot those small moments in their life to where things just aren't working out so well. And that's what I feel makes me a decent coach. And as I become a better coach, I want to be able to learn and improve upon interacting with people with that.
Ooh, that's a lot. I feel that heavy weight, and I'm not even an Air Force, so I can only imagine. Being retired now, just pivoting back to what you shared with us, how do you handle those visions, those memories that come back, late at night when your mind is just wandering?
Those things for a while, they took a toll. And going from Afghanistan to Qatar to then understanding, okay, I get to start over again when I got to Turkey. That time frame itself, I didn't know where those emotions were going to go. And some nights would be nightmares. Some nights would be, hey, these are starting to overtake you. And I can definitely say therapy helped. I had 3 different therapists over a course of a year. I didn't like that changeover. So for me, I'm like, okay, I still got to deal with this. I had injuries that I had to deal with. But looking back at that now, I'll be honest, I found myself on the side of the bed doing all these heroic things, but then one day I'm just sitting on the side of my bed and I'm shedding tears. And I cannot figure out what's going on. But that's what made me want to go get help. I knew I couldn't carry that weight by myself, and I needed to make sure, hey, I gotta figure this out. One step at a time, one thing at a time, I need to unload that. But the beautiful part about it is I learned I can go back and do all the things I enjoy doing. So that's where music came back into play. That's where talking to other people, getting on the grill, just doing the simple things reminded me that it's never gonna change what you saw. But there's a way to create that balance and focus on the good and not so much of the bad. It helped out quite a bit over the time.
Wow. Look at that. And pivoting what you just said about music, I understand that you are a DJ.
I do a little
Tell
bit
us
of.
a little bit about that.
You know, when I came back to North Carolina, I consider myself a foreigner. I retired out of Turkey. So 14 of my 20 years were spent overseas. I've seen a lot of the world, even as I was in these different locations, to include Japan, Korea, Italy, Qatar, Turkey. But then on top of that, I traveled outside of that. So the beautiful thing about culture is now that I get to bring it back to North Carolina. And music has always been a part of my life. Just knowing that I play every brass instrument, I hear musically in a different way than most people do. So if I hear something that I enjoy, it doesn't matter what framework it comes from, it doesn't matter what culture, if it hits me and I like it, it just makes sense to me. So I don't want to be stuck inside of a box. And when it came to DJing and just having my own radio show, it was one of the easiest things to do because now I get to tell those stories in a form of therapy while also having other people come join me every other week. It's just a nice way to connect people. I know a lot of people are afraid of, oh, you do a lot of things. I'm like, it's not that I do a lot of things, I just enjoy the things that I do. And some people, I'm like, you should do the same. Don't get stuck in doing just one thing. You probably have 20 different passions. So enjoy that. I created the show Resilient Voices, and that was just based off of being able to connect with community, have them sit down. Even when I have guests, I'll play music in the beginning, I'll introduce them, and then I'll ask them for 3 songs that are impactful to them. That way it allows me to understand their mindset, what type of music actually molds them. We've all got those songs to where it's like, all right, if I throw this on, I'm gonna be in a certain mind frame. So it's nice to hear that. I've had TEDx speakers that are youth, all the way to Air Force veterans on my show. And I look forward to having more people on the show just so we can connect. People can understand where everyone comes from, their background.
Okay, great. What is your favorite song and why?
My favorite song, it's probably about a tie right now. And to really get me through, I will go back to Liberation by Outkast. But there's also another, and it was probably due to the time frame, Count Me Out by Kendrick Lamar, because that was truly him healing and putting that into the musical form. But I think right now, with the times, with seeing what being able to absorb coming back to this country, it's definitely J. Cole, Quick Stop. And all of them really give a different aspect of not just our culture, but at the same time, you have to be dedicated to what you're doing. You have to know your why. You have to really live that, because now you can set boundaries and no one can tell you that you can't do it.
Exactly.
So whether it's liberating for me to be counted out, you can't count me out. Because I know what my mission, my goal is long term. And I know not a lot of people may see that long term, but that's going to be anybody. There's going to be people that come into our lives that doubt what we're doing. That's fine. You don't have to be along for the ride. It's my journey to take, and I encourage people to do that in coaching as well.
I love that. Which takes us to another aspect of your life. You are very active in the community. I know that you give back to the community. I know that you focus on our youth. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I got to give you credit while we're sitting here, and I think that's the best part about just being able to sit here with you. I remember walking into the office saying, hey, you're a former educator. Help me get into programs. That instantly led me to Durham Nativity. Then, for those that don't know, that's a middle school program where it is a privatized school to where those boys get education. Then on top of that, you led me to East Chapel Hill. And now I've got a middle school group, I've got a high school group, and now it's starting to bleed over into nonprofits. But I have to give you credit because I just asked the question. You then started giving me a couple phone calls, and then it gave me the ability to show up. Mm-hmm. And that's all I really wanted. And my thought process behind introducing the CEO mindset at a young age is because, yes, I can work with a lot of CEOs. That's great. But they are also already in their life, and they form their own mindset. Going with the youth, I want them to own their own life. So that's why I established 5 principles for them to follow. It's vision, organization, ownership, decision-making, and execution. I don't want you to just have a vision and kind of mull it over. I want you to be able to execute on that because now you own that entire process. So having the youth go from not speaking to then going to, hey, now I can say what I really want to do. Now I can actually go do it. It gives me pride. Because the same concept applies, whether it was the Navy SEALs that I work with, whether it was teams overseas, whether it was other nations in multinational or different culture situations, we all had a vision. But it was all dependent upon decision making and the execution, which was the most important part to see it through.
I love that. I love that. And I applaud you. I thank you for pouring into our youth, because our youth are our future. And it takes a village, and I just thank you for being a part of that village. And I have two more questions for you. One is, what would you tell our generation right now?
Slow down a little bit and pay attention to everything. And it seems like a simple thing to do, but the world is moving so fast. But I think some of the most beautiful moments are when you get past the elevator pitch. Ask the additional question. If you really want to get to know a person, take the time to get to know a person. Don't just have it to where it's only beneficial on your end, because then that's transactional. It's different when you actually connect with people. And I know sometimes it's scary because a lot of people are like, how do you talk to everyone? It's because I care about everyone. It doesn't mean that we're going to do business, but it allows me to know in those simple moments to where I can see you might be having a bad day, I'm willing to stop. And it creates a better world, because we're in a world where there's a lot of greed. We're in a world where, certain things aren't making sense. Everybody wants to pull. Well, what are you willing to give? And I wish more people would take time to do that.
Okay. And then the last question. If you could go back to middle school, what would be a letter that you would write to yourself? Knowing what you know today.
This leads me to a story, because in middle school, I loved writing. So I was definitely the guy that did write a lot of love letters. That was me.
Okay.
But I didn't know how big writing was to me at that time. And I remember sitting in middle school and I wrote a haiku. And my teacher actually looked at me and said, there's no way that you wrote this. And it actually took me off my path for quite a few years, because I'm like, she didn't believe that I did that. So if there's actually going to be a letter that I wrote to myself, it's truly believe in what you're capable of doing. And I was surrounded like that, because I knew at that point, like, hey, I enjoyed this. But she almost took that joy away. And if I would have actually listened to what she said, I may have never wrote again. So when I really do talk to people, I ask them, where do you want to be? Who do you want to be? And then, yeah, cool. If we're doing a job, we can focus on that. But on the balancing side of it, I want to be able to give people something to believe in themselves. So it might not be the job that you're doing. What are you actually passionate about? And I think that makes a difference. So if I were going to write a letter to myself, it'd probably just be you.
I like that.
2 simple words, but a lot of people run from themselves. Never run from themselves, because you're always going to be led back to yourself.
I like that. Well, there you have it, family. From the words and the mouth, and the words of Chris K. Jones. Just be yourself. Thank you all. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you. I really do. I'm so honored to have had this opportunity to sit down and just have a conversation with you, as you would say.
Absolutely.
Tune in. Tell us, how can they get in contact with you?
LinkedIn is probably the best way. I do have an email. I do run my own business, Relentless Calm Advisors. Chris Jones at relentlesscalmadvisors.com. That's the best way to get in contact with me. I will reply within 48 hours. Again, it's an honor to be here with you.
Well, thank you. And remember, it's your girl, Beth Rogers. Tune in to Man Up Monday. Until next time, mwah.